Vice News released a trailer for an upcoming piece that they're going to have on Al-Shabaab jihadists in Somalia. Let's listen.
We are in Mogadishu, the capital of Somalia, which is a word that's become synonymous with war.
What Al-Shabaab is trying to do is to complete their morphing into a proper guerrilla force. And they have done that with some success. Since the beginning of this year, they've killed 5 members of parliament, and there were a number of suicide bombings. They've attacked the presidential palace twice. They've attacked the high court once. They've attacked the parliament. All of that this year.
The fight is being spearheaded by AMISOM, which is a grouping of African militaries that are mandated by the United Nations to be here.
Al-Shabaab has gone through an evolution, evolving from a nationalist movement to more of a global jihadist movement.
For those of you who don't know or don't remember, Al-Shabaab are the terrorists who did the mall attack in Kenya recently, where they went in, it was a Westgate mall, and they just butchered everybody in sight. In fact, I think it was HBO that did a fantastic documentary on that recently. And what I didn't know, and what the media here has done a terrible job of covering, is that they're so emboldened that they're literally attacking government buildings in Somalia, like they described there. The high court they attacked, the parliament they attacked, and this is all recent. They've become more and more powerful recently. But see, this is one of those stories that really puts in perspective American foreign policy and how contradictory and flailing it is. We claim that we're protecting freedom and we're protecting the innocent all around the world. We are rightly the world police. But if we were objective in that, we would have to go fight a war against Al-Shabaab right now. Like, that would be one of the top groups on the list that we would have to go fight right now, because they're gaining a foothold in Somalia and they might flat out take over power over there because of how strong they're becoming. But that's not even considered. It's not considered. It's not brought up in the conversation. Not a single establishment Democrat or Republican would bring up right now, hey, why don't we go into Somalia and do a full-scale invasion and thwart off these Al-Shabaab terrorists? Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. And of course, the reason is that's not the main concern. The main concern is not for us to protect freedom around the world and to truly be the world policeman. That's the cover story, and that's the thing that a lot of people rationalize and believe. But when it comes down to it, the U.S. is acting in a very similar way to every imperialist power throughout history. It's more about having access to vital regions around the world. It's about natural resources. In the case of Afghanistan, it's about minerals. It's about opium. It's always, of course, about the military-industrial complex. People make a lot of money because of war. In the case of Iraq and other places in the Middle East, it's about oil. So the first concern is never, hey, are people getting hurt? Do they need us, the good guys, the policemen of the world, to come in and save it? Because then, again, what would happen? Well, North Korea would be one place we go, and we would have to fix that situation. Myanmar is another place where there's horrible repression going on. It's basically a military junta. In the Congo right now, there's a religious war. I'm sure you guys haven't heard about this. Christians versus Muslims. They're slaughtering civilians left and right. And what's our response to that? Nothing. So if we wanted to be objective, we would have to go after Boko Haram in Nigeria, another jihadist group. We'd have to go after all the jihadist groups. Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, Al-Nusra Front in Syria, Ansar al-Sharia, they're in Libya now, among other places. Al-Qaeda, the Islamic Front, Jemaah Islamiyah, the Taliban, Hezbollah, and the list goes on and on and on. And those things I named are just the jihadist groups. Again, if you really wanted to be the world policeman, you would have to overthrow all the brutal dictators. You would have to overthrow all of the thug military juntas. You would have to overthrow the far-right governments and the super far-left governments and the ones that censor the press and censor freedom of speech and the ones that have political prisoners, and the list goes on. And we can't do that, and that's not the goal. That's not what we want to do, again, because it's not about that. That's just the cover story. And this great piece from Vice News on Al-Shabaab is just another example that proves that.